Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children 18 plus. You are tuned in to the Lone Officer Podcast with me, Dustin Owen, and my main man,
JC.
John Coleman.
Dio, what is poppin'?
JC, I just hopped off a call with our buddy Rocky.
Shout out Rocky Lagorgio.
Say that again?
Lagorgio.
Lagorgio. You pronounced it appropriately or properly.
Yeah.
Better than I could do.
Yeah. Well.
Shit, I can barely speak right now.
Shout out Rocky in the MLO study buddy. Passed your NMLS safe test.
Hey, that dude has it going on.
He does.
He has it going on. What started for him as a passion project is turning into
A life-changing.
a company.
Yeah.
Like a company that changes lives.
Yeah, that's what
like
I'm
it may change Rocky's life. Right now he's like, you know what, Dio? I don't know if I'm making any more money than I was making when I was selling real estate and slinging loans.
However,
He's like, but I love what I do.
there's the payoff.
So we talked about getting Rocky back in here next year.
Shout out Rocky. Yeah, come on, bro.
Yeah, well, we had him on a year ago.
Already?
We had Rocky on, and we're thinking about doing it again 1 year later. Now that he has his website, he has his YouTube channel, they're selling cheat sheets and grid guides, and eventually he's going to have an entire study packet. But Rocky has opportunities for people to, for free, every night be a part of a call where he is helping soon-to-be mortgage professionals study for and pass the NMLS exam.
Mm-hmm.
He's also offering services where you can pay for private one-on-one coaching.
Get out of town.
Yeah. So I was like, good for you, man.
Word.
But after talking to him, I'm like, Rocky, you need a business manager. Kind of sounds like some conversations I've had with you, John Coleman.
All day.
John, we need a business manager.
Yeah.
At some point, we're going to have to stake our claim that this is more than just a passion project.
Hobby.
It's more than just a hobby. Yeah, let's turn this into something bigger and better. Let's go impact more lives.
Okay. Wow.
You want to?
That was impassioned. That was
Do you want to go impact more lives, John?
You don't make me answer that on air.
John, do you want to make enough money
Don't.
that you can save all the sea
Money.
turtles in the world?
Money.
Can you imagine the amount of zoos you could contribute
We
to?
have already passed the tipping point. We're just living on borrowed time now. That's how yeah, sure.
You must have just listened to like the last episode where we talked about natural disasters, and I got you all messed up in the head.
No, man.
Okay, let's go change lives, John.
Okay.
I'll change human lives. You change animal lives.
that works.
Does that work?
Oh my gosh.
I'll
yeah.
take care of the humans. You
You
take care
of the plants and
Yes.
animals.
Plants. I hate plants.
What?
I don't like birds either. Love me some horses, some dogs,
There's
and dolphins.
a deeper issue there. If you say I hate plants, hate birds.
I like to eat plants.
I mean, yeah, I don't mind smoking them.
I'm
But like, what do you mean you don't?
I'm not even a hunter, but I'll go shoot the shit out of some birds.
No, but
Yeah, you throw a bird up in there, I'll just blast it.
no, man.
Let the
birds-
dog go get it.
Birds are beautiful, man.
Yeah, sure they are. But they just, as a kid, I was always afraid they're going to attack me and peck my eyeballs out. True story.
There it is, and therein lies
It's
the
a safety
deep
thing.
emotional scar. That
It's a safety thing.
Walking to school, 3rd grade, Mrs. Jensen's class, a bird flew in. Oh yeah, okay, makes sense.
Yeah.
But today's topic is not about birds. It's not about nature. What are we going to talk about today, Dio? Because you got your get shit done on hat.
You
thing.
saw this, huh? I
Yeah.
went straight camo today. John came up with some new TLOP swag.
It is exclusive shit.
It is exclusive.
Yeah.
You only brought a few of these hats to Vegas,
Only a
and
few.
you were very,
Selective.
very selective.
Because for those who know, they're like real hats. They're like New Era branded, not some like, jabroni things I get off the shelf in the mall kiosk at the middle. No, these are legit hats. So
You straight up walk into Lids.
Yep.
You buy a nice hat,
all of them. Give me all of those snapbacks.
and then you're like, I need it embroidered with TLOP.
Yep. You got to go to a different store for that. Yeah. So it's a process. It's not like,
And that is why you stay on the creative side of things, and I will stay on the business side
Dio
of
was
things.
like, we got to get the cost down to $5 a hat. I'm like, we can. They'll fall apart in the rain. But yeah, sure.
Okay, let's somewhere in the middle. $10 a hat, we can give more away. You're dropping $30 a lid, then they're hot commodities, I guess.
I guess, you say
All
the
right.
same thing.
This is like the hologram baseball card that there's only
NFTs.
Yeah, something like that. I'm wearing the NFTs
You
of
are.
hats.
Yeah, you are.
Okay, so today's episode, we've covered in the past 12 months.
Yeah.
But we haven't covered it with it being relevant. And I have found this as a human myself, raising little humans or managing grown-ass humans
Who act like little humans.
who act like little humans.
Right.
If it's not pertinent to our life today, we don't care about it. We don't think about it.
Nope.
Like, think about the way people get involved in certain charitable organizations. When it impacts their life.
Exactly.
Nobody cares about X, Y, or Z until that disease impacts your family. Then all of a sudden it's like, whoa.
Oh, whoa, stop what you're doing. Look at this post I made. Please donate.
Yes.
Yep.
Okay, well, we have to do that right now.
Okay.
Our industry is going through a purge. And when I say our industry, the mortgage industry. And this purge is needed. This purge is necessary. This purge is 3+ years in the making. This purge started in 2018. It slowly started to unravel into 2019. By the beginning of 2020, we could start to see some of the wheels come off. And then COVID happened. And then when COVID happened, it was like being a heroin addict, and all of a sudden your best friend came in with the best Narcan. And you were ODing, you were taking your last breath, and they shoved that 6-inch needle into your aorta, and boom, you feel like $1 million. So you kept partying, and you partied, and you partied, and you partied, not remembering there was a massive drug addiction leading up to your almost death before the Narcan hit. That is the mortgage industry. So we foreshadowed what is happening right now. I want to say first quarter. I know I started talking about it internally in fourth quarter of last year, but in the end of Q1, beginning of Q2, I remember specifically stating to people, there's 2 big dates I need you all to be mindful of and aware of. The first date was August 15th. The second date was November 15th. To me, those dates were significant only because they were 45 days after second quarter ended. That would be second quarter ended June 30th. So 45 days after June 30th, get to somewhere around August 15th, August 14th, depending on how you do your math. And then Q3 ends September. So if I go 45 days out of September, it puts me right around November 15th. 14th again, depending on which days you're counting and not counting. Why those are significant? Because after the quarter ends, every bank, lender, credit union, they have to go through this accounting process where they are going to finalize their books for the quarter. Were they profitable? If so, how? If they weren't profitable, if so, why? And then they have to show their profit or lack thereof to all of their business partners. Their business partners may very well be the technology vendor that they're trying to onboard because they want a certain technology. It could be the certain investor that they want to sell loans to. Hey, I want to sell loans to New Res because I hear they're giving the best premium and the cheapest rates on these types of loans. They have to, per their covenants, show it to their warehouse lenders. So we've done enough shows where we talk about the way that banks and lenders obtain their money to lend is typically through some kind of a warehouse lending facility. They go to another bank and borrow money. They then lend that money out for a more expensive or a higher interest rate to pick up the spread, the delta, the arbitrage. Well, in order for someone to lend me money, I have to show them that I'm making money, that I have money. Because who wants to lend me money if I'm on the cusp
about to go out of business,
of being insolvent, right? So we've foreshadowed this happening. We know what's happening. Well, guess what?
It's happening.
It's happening. It's happening. And it started right around 3 months ago, right? Right around 3 months ago, we started to see some of it, right? We saw the non-QM lender sprout. They went out of business. Okay, well, that's non-QM, and those types of loans aren't very liquid. So the minute the market dries up and you don't have a market to sell into,
you'll be the first one to go, right?
You will be the first one to go. So that one wasn't like as big of a shock. But then we started seeing just recently, and I'm going to try to go off of memory here, but like I live in Orlando, Florida. There is a mortgage company that we all knew and respected. They did a good job. They had great loan officers. They had really great processors and underwriters. They had about $500 million a year in production. They were a retail mortgage branch. Their name was Christensen Financial. They're no longer. Boom. Overnight. Now, I don't know if they were insolvent. I don't know if their creditors and their aggregators, their stakeholders came to them and said, hey, look, owners, we have noticed that over the past 2 years, and by the way, this happens. This is real life. So there's going to be some knowledge dropping going on here. So they could have gone to the owners, because Christensen Financial was a privately owned company, and said, hey, look, we noticed that you have, over the past 2 or 3 years, you've taken profit distributions of upwards of $9 million. Currently, in order for us to continue doing business with you, we're going to need you to infuse $5 million back into the company. Now, you don't go borrow that money per se. That money is typically coming from that CEO who, over the past 2 or 3 years, took his or her profit distributions. Now they're saying, we want you to infuse 5 of that 9 million. You might not have it because maybe you spent it. That new boat, that new beach house.
When you say personal, that's like your personal funds when you say that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Because when you own a company, like, that's your money. So your company was hella profitable in 2020 and 2021. You don't want that money sitting in the company. You want to pay yourself.
Gotcha.
Like, pay daddy.
Gotcha.
Pay mama. Like,
Gotcha.
that's what you work for. That's what you took all that risk for.
Gotcha.
It's nothing that anyone should ever be bashful about or hide from, because they built that company. They took on the risk. They put their nuts on the line.
Yeah.
Yeah. When we were talking with one of our new TLOPers out in Vegas, who's from Texas, like, when he started his mortgage company,
Yeah.
it was $4 million.
I
He
don't-
stroked
yeah.
a check.
Yeah.
Now, he could have gone and found investors. He could have had partners, right? He could have had silent partners who each invested $1 million. But he's like, no, I want to be 100% owner of the company. He could have been 50% or 51% owner of the company if he wanted to raise that money. He didn't want to do that.
Right.
And I don't blame him. If he has the money, then
Right.
it's nice not having to necessarily look to other people for their input.
Yeah.
So what happened, or could have happened, to a company like Christensen? So I use Christensen because it's my backyard. But I know of a company very similar that this just happened in Arizona. If it's happening in Arizona, you better believe it's probably happening in Boston, in Chicago, in Spokane, right? Like, it is happening all throughout. There's Christensen Financials all over the place. But what could have happened isn't necessarily insolvency, but it could have very well been they wanted the owner to infuse capital. And then it's like, you know what? I've had a great run.
Great run.
20, 30 years. I've made 20, 30, $50 million over that time period. I've employed hundreds of people. You know what? My time has come. My ship has sailed. It's time for me just to say, we're done. Tapping out. We're tapping out. But that could happen. And all this is transpiring because of what we could see writing on the wall. So I am going to talk about, why are we not seeing par pricing today? I am going to talk about what is margin compression and why are we experiencing it and when does it go away. And I'm also going to just remind people that what we're going through, although is painful, although sucks, and it sucks mightily for all the non-sales people. That's who I feel the worst for. If you're a salesperson and your company goes under, or your company merges with another company, even if you don't like that new company, if you're good at what you do and you bring in revenue, you're still in the driver's seat.
Very good.
Yes, it sucks having to go learn a new system and to onboard and to tell your referral partners who you now represent and now who you work for. Like, that is stressful. That does cause chaos. But if you're a salesperson and you're good at what you do and you have a following, you're always going to be employed. Right? That's the whole thing about he or she that controls the lead controls the revenue, right? Like, that's where you always want to be. I feel bad for that 20-year processor, that 7-year underwriter. Hell, that first-year loan officer assistant who a year ago was bright-eyed, bushy-tailed, and jumping headfirst in this industry and super stoked, and now all of a sudden, to nothing of his or her own, is going to be told, hey, look, we don't need you where we're going, or we don't need you for the next 6 or 9 months. So for now, I need you to go ahead and sit on the sidelines. And by the way, by sitting on the sidelines, you're a free agent and we're not paying you.
Dang.
Right? So like, that is transpiring. So we talked about Christensen Financial, and I also talked about, like, well, the why behind it.
Yeah.
How about this? Here's some other craziness. Because if this is happening in this short period of time, like, this information I'm sharing right now is all within the past 30 days. So I'm not even going back to 2 or 3 months ago when Sprout went under, okay? Or FGMC, that was another. Those two were the first big names that we all heard about. And both of them played in a arena that just had a more illiquid market to sell into.
Yeah.
So you knew going into it that if somebody was going to go the wrong direction, that Sprout could have been the first, FGMC possibly the second. But just recently, there's this mortgage company. It's a bank-owned independent mortgage banker. So the company's called Bay First. Bay First, the bank, from everything I know, is doing really well. right? They're a small independent bank out of Tampa, Florida.
Okay.
Their mortgage company, $1.8 billion, $2 billion in production. That puts them easily in the top 100 in the U.S.
Yeah.
Bank decides we don't want mortgage. Too risky, not enough guaranteed profit. We're out.
What?
We're out. Literally told all the loan officers, hey, look, we're going to honor any lock that you bring in the door by the end of September. We'll get everything locked, everything closed that's locked. We'll get you paid out, but we're done.
What about all the stuff I have in my pipeline and all the relationships I've been building over the past 6 to 8 months?
Yeah, I'm letting you know right now, John, that we are done with mortgage. And if you are a successful loan originator, then you have an awesome opportunity to go interview with some good companies out there that are looking to hire people just like you. Like, boom. Okay, that's $1.8 billion. Now, some people aren't going to make the cut. Some people, the lower producers, maybe the people that are on the cusp of retirement, this may be their sign. Hey, look, you know what? I gave mortgage my go. I gave it my all. My all wasn't enough. I'm going to go try to find a career outside of mortgage. Maybe someone's going to be like, you know what? This is my sign. I held on as long as I could. I had 2 awesome years at the end of my career, but it's time for me to start greeting people at Walmart and taking more cruises.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
And then this was announced. PenFed. PenFed's a large national credit union. PenFed, you can sell loans to, like if I'm a Waterstone Mortgage, I can deliver loans to PenFed. PenFed has a retail platform. That means if I'm a consumer, I can go to PenFed mortgage company and obtain a home loan, just like I could go to Guild to obtain a home loan. PenFed decides, look, we're done with retail. So we're cool buying loans from other lenders, and we're cool representing markets where we have a credit union presence or we have a real estate presence, because PenFed also has like a real estate company, I understand. But this particular silo, we're done with. We don't need nor want outside loan originators, their underwriters, and their processors going out to the general public and bringing business in. We only want to support our credit union members, and we only want to support our real estate clients. We do not want to go after a different business. Okay. And then on the wholesale side, I know Annie Mac, and I have friends over at Annie Mac. They're a really good company. I've only known Annie Mac to do residential retail, right? Residential retail means I, the consumer, can go to that company and they're going to give me a loan. Movement Mortgage is one of them, and Fairway Mortgage is one of them, and CMG Financial is one of them, and Waterstone is one of them, and Guaranteed Rate is one of them. You can go to any one of those companies and get a home loan. Annie Mac does that, but Annie Mac also was doing wholesale. Wholesale is, hey, I'm a mortgage broker working for JC Financial, and I want to broker a loan. I wanted to send it to Annie Mac and let them underwrite it and fund it and then pay me a commission. Annie Mac raised their hand and said, we're done with wholesale. Too risky, not enough money to be made. I'm tired. I'm making this part up. I'm tired of having to battle Quicken and United Wholesale, whatever the case may be. Boom, they're done. Well, that's one less place for a broker to send loans. Less competition means the people who are left don't have to be as aggressive with their pricing strategies. All right, cool. So that's going on. Then I read about American Mortgage Service Company being acquired by Thrive. Now, Thrive a year ago sold 49% of their company to a bank. I think that was an awesome strategy.
Okay.
I don't know a whole lot about Thrive, but what I do know is I do like that strategy, working for a bank-owned mortgage lender. Although we just sold Pay First, their bank didn't want to be a part of them.
Yeah.
But when that happened, I don't think it was necessarily done because everything is just peaches and cream, right? Sunny rainbows. No, I'm sure American Mortgage Service Company was like, we're in a bind. We need some help. Speaking of we're in a bind, we need some help. Finance of America. Finance of America is a top 10 lender nationally. Right? They do it all. Consumer direct, reverse mortgages, retail, maybe even did some wholesale. Here's what I do know. They're done in retail. And I know when I pulled up a map of how many retail offices they had, it was more hands, toes, fingers, and feet that I had.
Right.
And I think that was just in the Southeast, let alone from coast to coast. Whatever it is about residential retail, they want no part of it. We are getting out. So they made a deal with Guaranteed Rate, and Guaranteed Rate, according to the article I read, is going to come in and absorb them. I'd be shocked if any money was exchanged, right? I think it's one of those, hey, we're desperate. We need to unload some of this debt. What's the easiest and best way for us to do it? And guarantee rates like, look, we'll be your Huckleberry. We'll slide in.
I'll pay your shit up, but now you work for me.
Correct.
Gotcha.
Yeah, it's one of those aspects. Now, if I'm an originator working there, did I get a chance to interview with Guaranteed Rate?
Absolutely not.
What if Guaranteed Rate isn't the company that's best for me? Now, for some people, maybe Guaranteed Rate's the best company for them, and they're so stoked to have that opportunity. But this type of merger forced acquisition is going to lead to some people getting out of the business because Guaranteed Rate's going to come in and be like, we don't need all of you. We only want the producers who do X production. Or we don't need all those underwriters. We don't need all those processors. We already have a marketing department. Sorry, marketing department, but you no longer are required because we're doubling up on services
redundancies
that
we don't need.
There's redundancies. That's the word I was looking for. And then there's two other things I want to discuss before we jump on to topics B and C.
Okay.
I am hearing rumors, and I can't speak names because I'm not that type of person to discuss rumors. I am hearing rumors of a super large mortgage lender who does it all, wholesale, retail, correspondent, who was acquired within the past year or two. Rumor mill circulating that, hey, once this name change goes through, the new company has zero desire to be in residential retail. Like, what? If this actually goes from rumor, kind of like Giselle, Tom Brady getting a divorce, to real deal, that would ripples all throughout the mortgage industry. This is a large national lender who could potentially be exiting retail. That means consumers could no longer go to this company to get a loan. The only person who's going to have a loan with that company is because a company like, again, a Gateway or a Annie Mac or a Thrive originated the loan, funded it, and sold it off to this. That's what we call correspondent lending or an aggregator. That would be huge. And this is all expected. So can I put my positive spin on it now for you, John?
Yes.
Because there's a lot of shitty suck going on right there.
Right. When does it bottom out? Because it sounds like more and more people are just tapping out.
The next 90 days are going to be rocky.
Really?
Rough.
Damn.
Yes. Category 4 hurricane. Category 4 hurricane. What type of structure are you sheltered in? And where is your geographic location? Because it matters. Are you up on stilts made of concrete with steel beams and crazy ass hurricane shutters, hurricane windows, and the best type of roof strapped down? Or are you living in the stick built house?
Hi, huff and I puff.
That's ground level with water on 3 sides? Yeah, it's going to be that for the next 90 days. And it's necessary. It's needed. It sucks for all of those bystanders who are impacted, right? Those who don't necessarily bring revenue in because it's not their job. For those whose job is to bring in revenue, what a phenomenal opportunity to be in the mortgage industry, right? There's going to be a lot of chaos. There's going to be a lot of stress. But if you have your head down, your blinders on, there's going to be lots of opportunity. Because as these handful of loan originators who get displaced choose to exit because they realize mortgage isn't for them, that benefits you. That's 5 less originators out there building referral relationships. When these 3 originators decide it's time to retire, that's good for you. That's 3 less that are out there trying to do what you do, competing for the same referrals. When X mortgage company shuts their doors, whether it's by choice or whether they're forced to do it, that's good for you who is still standing because that's 1 less competitor. 1 less competitor means that is 1 less person willing to drop their pants and run naked for the opportunity to do a loan, even if it means at a loss. And I think that's what originators don't understand is how many mortgage companies have been operating at a loss for the better part of all of this year. Some of them, fourth quarter of last year, in many were 2018, 2019. If you remember, that's when it all started. But then this massive, what I call was a Narcan shot. Narcan is the shot in your heart, right? Is that Narcan?
Don't ask me. Maybe.
You know
Someone
what?
correct us in the comments.
Yeah.
That's always a saving
You will
grace.
correct me. Yes. It's an adrenaline shot. I don't know if it's Narcan. I know there's EpiPens for people with allergies. I think Narcan's the adrenaline shot that they put in people when they're ODing. I've only seen it on Pulp Fiction. So, I mean, I'm referencing a movie from like 1995 here. But nonetheless, a really good movie. So as all of this starts to transpire, you have to figure out where is the positive. And it is there. I do believe in my heart of hearts that when we turn around and we find ourselves March 15th of 2023, we're going to look behind us and we're going to see the devastation from the storm that has already passed. When we look in front of us, just like John, you and I experienced over the weekend from this hurricane recently, it was
beautiful as hell.
Sunny skies, blue sunny skies, and the air temperature dropped 15 degrees.
Made no sense.
It went from screeching hot summer to fall
overnight
once that storm passed.
It did.
And I think that's what we're going to see. In fact, I'm confident. I'd put up a C note or 10 that we're going to start seeing mortgage rates get better mid-November. Now, we still have to get through the end of the year, which, look, Q4, Q1, the winter months are typically bad for housing in general. It's typically the slow months. But as we get through January 15th, we start the home buying season in terms of the inquiries. We start our closings around spring break and Easter, and then we run into the summer. I think we're going to have a housing market where there's enough inventory. It won't be a plethora of inventory, but there'll be enough inventory. I think we're going to see rates come down. Now, they're not going to go down to 3 necessarily, but if they went down from 7 back down to 5,
that's a win.
All of a sudden the consumer mentality is, oh my gosh, 5's a great rate. If you try to tell someone the rate was 5 back in just March of this year, they would have shot you in the forehead with a rusty arrow because they were used to, in their mind, rates being 3. No, now rates are 5 or even they're 5.5. And we have this housing market that is somewhat stable. I say somewhat because 2 years ago it wasn't stable. It was such a seller's market that homes were selling for $20,000, $30,000 over appraised value, and some buyers were having to do sexual favors just to get the seller to accept their offer. Not maybe not that, but just about that extreme, right? And for those of us that can survive that, fantastic. There's going to be some that can't survive it, and that's sad. Just know that everything in life happens for a reason, and this is your opportunity to figure out what that reason was. Maybe mortgage wasn't your calling. Maybe your sun has set on your mortgage career, but it's going to allow you to entertain opportunities elsewhere. Or maybe for some, it's going to be an opportunity to say, well, what could I do in the future? I love mortgage and I'm good at it. What can I do in the future to make sure that I'm the last person that they want to let go? And I'm going to tell you right now, if you're listening this far into this podcast, it all starts with, well, how much value do you bring to the organization? By value, I mean, do you do a task so much better than everyone else that they have to keep you? Or do you do a task at which point you can attach revenue, hard revenue, to that task, at which point you pay for yourself? That is the goal of entrepreneurship, is you can attach revenue to the work that you provide. All right. I foreshadowed when we kicked this thing off, I would talk about margin compression, and I would also talk about why we don't have any par pricing. I also wanted to discuss a Fannie Mae lender letter that came out September 21st. I love this because you can go look it up yourself and you can read it. Just Google Fannie Mae lender letter. But I think it's paramount for everyone to know that every mortgage company has been put on notice. If they haven't been put on notice already by their warehouse lender, and they haven't been put on notice by their aggregators. Aggregators are, again, the companies we sell loans to. Then they've now been put on notice by Fannie Mae if they are a direct seller servicer. If you are not profitable, we will cut you.
What?
We will cut you, John. Yeah, it's like the last week of training camp when I watch Hard Knocks on HBO.
Yeah, but coach, this whole time, like, I've been working hard. Like, come on, man.
No, the last time this happened, a friend of mine was working in correspondent lending. He had, let's just say, 3,000 clients. The next day, he had 1,200 clients. 1,800 got cut. Now, for various reasons, but normally those reasons are either you don't send enough business to us, or we just don't want the relationship, or you're not profitable. We can't take on the risk of buying a loan from you. Because if a aggregator bought a loan from a mortgage company, then the mortgage company went out of business 30 days later, and the aggregator noticed there was fraud or default risk or deficiencies, a common practice is you have to buy that loan back. You have to make good on whatever was deficient or fraudulent. Well, if I try to send a loan back to a company that themselves are defunct, that means I get to eat their mistake. Well, I'm not in the business of buying lemons for cars as a consumer. So if I was an aggregator, well, I'd be in the business of buying bad loans. So if you're not solvent yourself and profitable, then I'm going to cut you off. The minute you get cut off, that ripples through all the other investors. Like, oh, wait a minute. Why did Chase cut them off? Why did AmeriHome cut them off?
Let me investigate.
And then you realize, wait a minute, I'm the only player in town?
Y'all are playing me. I'm done too.
Yep. Or, hey, I'll be your ride or die, but I'm going to be your ride or die at an extra 0.5% on your rate sheet. Now, all of a sudden, you don't have even remotely competitive rates. Already, everyone's rates have been all over the place in terms of like, are we competitive or we're not competitive? Because as a lender, I'm in charge of my own P&L. I can't control John Coleman's P&L. And John Coleman may be suicidal with his P&L. He may be in such a desperate position that he is willing
Fire sale, 2% for everybody.
Yes.
Yeah.
He doesn't know how to manage himself out of this. So my LOs are coming to me, well, why does this lender do an X, Y, and Z? I'm like, I don't know. I don't know if they are on the brink of going under. I don't know if they're suicidal.
Yeah.
I don't know their business strategies. What I know is my business strategy, and I know that I owe it to me, the rest of these employees, the greater good of our organization, the stakeholders, our investors, our warehouse lender, Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, Ginnie Mae, et cetera, to be profitable. And I know what it takes to become profitable within my organization. That other company might not even have a idea of what it takes to become profitable, and they're in freak out mode. So that answers a little bit of what we're dealing with in terms of margin compression, right? Because you have plenty of people out on the roads. We're all at the same party. Some of us only had 2 drinks. Some of us had 5 drinks but got an Uber. Others were Frank the Tank on the beer bong and are driving around.
Right.
Like, okay, that's dangerous. By the way, they're naked and driving around. That's dangerous twofold.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's all well and good until somebody crashes that car.
Yeah.
Right? So like, that's the analogy I would use of like what's transpiring in the industry. And then when I referenced the Fannie Mae lender letter, the purpose of me referencing that is just a reminder. Fannie's letter, I read it twice, three different times. I even called our CEO and talked to him for an hour. I reached out to some of my colleagues in the industry. I'm like, hey, look, I'm trying to read this. I'm trying to decipher this. It didn't seem like it was that much new news. I think it was more of putting everyone on notice that we're for real this time. If you're not profitable, we'll cut you off. So there's some lenders out there who have been notified. Hey, looked at your Q2 report, looked at your Q3 report. Man, if Q4 looks anything like 2 and 3, we're done. And when that happens, like you're done. Because Fannie won't cut you off. Normally what will happen, your aggregators will cut you off, your warehouse lender will cut you off. It takes a lot for Fannie to cut you off. They typically don't need to, right? It's like, you don't need dad to come home if mom's already whipped your ass. Right? Like, hey, mom got to me.
Shit, I've had it threefold.
Oh, you got grandma too?
No, they took turns. They got mad again. And then they got back in line and started.
Yeah. So I mean, it's like 2 episodes in a row where I'm not trying to be solemn. I'm actually trying to be positive. But at the same time, I'm not trying to hide from the fact that this is what's going on. We need to recognize it. We need to open our eyes. If I'm a loan officer and you get beat because someone is showing you some crazy GFE or LE itemization fee worksheet from another lender. I dated myself when I said GFE, John, by the way.
TRID.
Jesus Christ. You're just like reaching for stuff. Okay. Yeah. But no, by the way, the LE and CD did come from TRID. So, hey, high five. But no, if you're seeing that, here's what you have to be able to explain to your consumer, your home buyer, your realtor. Ma'am or sir, I'm not familiar with that company. I am familiar with what's going on in my industry. And that seems like a great quote. But I don't know how good a quote is if it never funds. Right now, what we're experiencing and anticipating is the worst or best purge we've seen in our industry in over a decade. There will be dozens of companies forced into merger, being fire sold, or just going out of business over the next 90 days. And when it happens quick. I'm talking 3 to 5 business days gone. If you go with that lender, I advise you to have a backup plan because I understand the market. I understand how lending works, where we all borrow our money from, and the cost to originate a loan. I know that it is not possible for them to do that consistently and earn a profit. And I know if a mortgage company is not profitable, they will be cut off. They will be forced to either change their business model or go out of business. You may very well be calling me 3-5 days or 3 to 5 hours before closing, notifying me that, oh my gosh, what do I do? My lender just went out of business. At least let me be your backup plan, because that is going to transpire. This happened, by the way, right? History doesn't repeat itself. It rhymes. You ever heard of that before?
No, that's a good one. I never heard of that.
Yeah. I'm almost positive that would be the gentleman by the name of Mark Twain. I believe it was Mark Twain. Why to be Shakespeare? I'm like totally wrong continent, wrong century. But nonetheless, history doesn't repeat itself, but it rhymes. We lived through this in 2008. We lived through this in 2009. Like, I know this firsthand, and we're starting to experience it. I had friends who had loans with FGMC, and FGMC went out of business, and it was like, yeah, we're done funding, period. Sprout went out of business, we're done funding, period. So we have to be able to use this to be educators to the consumer, to the realtors. And if you are that loan officer and you're looking for a new place of employment, man, you got to do some deep research. You got to be asking like, hey, can I see your books? I'll sign an NDA. I will sign an NDA, but before I come work for you, especially if I'm bringing over a team or bringing over a branch or a region, I need to make sure that you're not going to end up 90 days down the road, 60 days down the road, insolvent, and I'm having to re-offboard and re-onboard somewhere else. Mm-hmm. That's the one thing that I do like about working for a publicly traded company. That's a small kudos to the company that I've chosen to be affiliated with for the past 14 years. Like, I tell someone, look my shit up. Yeah. Good, bad, or indifferent. Yeah. It's out there. Good, bad, or indifferent. Most aren't public. Most are not publicly traded. And those that are, tell you what, if I was working over at Loan Depot, I'd be sweating.
Really?
That stock price, it may be delisted. Damn. I'm not a stockbroker. This is not stock advice. But here's what I do know. I once worked for a mortgage company who saw its stock price go from 14 to 7, from 7 down to $1. Next thing you know, it is delisted from the New York Stock Exchange. That company's name was Home Bank, if you want to fact check me. And then after that, we are all being told, hey, damn, we can't fund your loans. You lost your warehouse line.
They got relegated from the Premiership. Do you know what that means?
Yeah, it has something to do with like FIFA or World Cup or something like that.
Yeah. So when you suck and then you can't play on our pitch anymore.
There you go. Manchester United.
I think they used to be really good, then they suck.
I've watched Ted Lasso. I understand it now.
I watched the other one.
There's another one?
No, the real documentary about soccer people on Amazon.
All right. So where was I on this one? I think it was just more of like, oh, a heads up, checking, like getting behind. Yeah, you got to see what's going on. Yes. You got to get the internal health.
Yeah.
What is this player worth me bringing on my team?
Yeah.
I don't know. Let me put them through a physical. These are things that we need to be asked. We didn't have to ask this 2 years ago, 3 years ago, 5 years ago, 9 years ago.
Come on in. It's a great place.
Yeah, we weren't asking that. We have to ask that today, especially the higher up you are, the larger the producer you are. Mm-hmm. These are things that you should be on the lookout for. So I briefly touched on it, and we're running long on time. Margin compression, why are we experiencing it? At the end of the day, it's because we've had more lenders trying to do loans and less people to do loans for. It's a simple supply and demand dynamic. That is why pricing pressures have been off the charts. That is why every loan is fighting tooth and nail, right? You have profitable lenders going up against non-profitable lenders. Why are non-profitable lenders non-profitable? 2 reasons. They either suck with too much expenses or they suck at not making money on the loans that they're originating. There's only so much you can cut your way out of not being profitable. There's only so much. So once you've made your appropriate staffing level changes, it then comes down to, well, what is your business model? Well, if you're not earning enough money on the loans that you originate, I don't give 2 rats' asses how many loans and how much volume you originate. Because I've never been paid as a company based on units and volume. I get paid on profitability. So are you doing enough units and enough volume at the right profitability mix? Well, there's many of us who are profitable. Those that are profitable during this hurricane, that is that steel structure built up on stilts with all the best technology. But I am next door to somebody who doesn't have what I have built, but I still have to compete against, right? That person is still offering rates that will eventually put their company out of business, but they just haven't figured out how to move the needle enough with their sales force, their sales culture, with the services that they provide so that they can earn enough revenue per loan. So all of that is causing margin compression. Margin compression means lenders went from making 40, 50 basis points on average in profit per year last quarter, -5.
Damn.
-5 last quarter. Ooh. I don't know how you do that math.
That sounds like it's running at a deficit.
Correct. You're losing money. Yeah. Half of lenders last quarter lost money. Half lenders made money. And then when you strip out the lenders that were selling off assets, their assets are called mortgage servicing rights. They're selling off assets in order to make money.
Yeah.
Well, then that makes it even worse because really you're really losing money.
You're making it look like you're making
But
money.
you make it look like you keep on selling off assets. Now, some people have enough of those assets they can afford to do that, and that was part of their not product mix. It was part of their business strategy. Mm-hmm. There's other people, they didn't anticipate having to go as long as they did or sell as much as they had to sell. Mm-hmm. And all of a sudden, they're finding themselves out of assets to sell. Crazy times. Crazy. I want to use this word, but man, did we ruin it during COVID. Unprecedented times. We haven't seen something like this since 2008, 2009 timeframe. Really started in 2007, kind of culminated all the way through 2009. It's happening. You probably want to ask me, Dio, is it a good time to get in the mortgage industry?
Now is a fantastic time to join the mortgage industry, John.
It is. And call me a homer. Call me a homer. I think it's a freaking fantastic time. It's not the easiest time. No, it's the best time, though.
Whatever. 2 years ago, people were bowling with bumpers on. That ain't the real industry. Even I know that.
Correct. They were bowling with bumpers on. No, you know what? We're all using 16-pound balls.
Yeah.
Right? They're all cut in order to throw the proper strike.
Yeah.
Right? It has the curve in it. We even have a spare ball. And we're forced to wear shoes that we purchased on our own, not the stanky ass shoes that you get at the bowling alley that you want to steal because they're that corny and cool to own. Yes, it truly is. We took the bumpers off. This is a fantastic industry for a financially minded, high aptitude, driven entrepreneur who wants to build something that no one can take away from them. But if you're not all of those things, it's probably not the best time for you because that's the person that's going to take. The person who's like, look, I don't care what business I open or I operate. It could be a landscape business. It could be a pool service. It could be attic insulation. It could be, what does Dennis do? Gutters, right? It could be a food truck, financial advisor, commercial realtor.
It doesn't matter. I'm going to be good at it.
Correct. It doesn't matter. But this is what I want to do. I want to pour my heart and soul in it. It's a fantastic time. Because as I said, as these originators get out, as this mortgage company unfortunately goes under, as these originators retire, it's going to expand how much opportunity is there for those that are left. Mm-hmm. And as those companies go out of business, margin compression is going to subside. Eventually, it won't be 100 lenders fighting over 50 loans. Eventually, it could be 40 lenders fighting over 50 loans, which means everyone gets a loan and some of us get two.
Right.
And that's where we want to be. We want to be in a place where there's enough lenders to support the number of buyers, where there's some refinances, but our industry isn't dominated by refinances. I do believe that's the direction that we're going. But until we get there, we're going to have to deal with these crazy pricing pressures for another 90 plus days. And we're going to have to deal with no par pricing, which is what we haven't talked about yet. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children 18 plus, if you made it this far, you're probably a geek to the mortgage industry.
Probably a nerd.
We currently are not getting par pricing. And that has nothing to do with your employer. I promise you, it has nothing to do with your employer. You are not receiving par pricing because the market is freaked the F out. It doesn't know what to do, and it is deathly afraid of anything to do with mortgage because the market doesn't like uncertainty. So until the market understands a little bit better the trajectory of the U.S. economy, and more importantly, this Federal Reserve we have, they're not going to be willing to pay a premium for a loan that may very well pay off in 12 to 24 months. You got to understand this. When a mortgage lender buys a loan, they're buying it with the thought process that that loan is going to stay on their books for 5 to 9 years. That's what they're paying for.
Mm-hmm.
So when a rate is determined and that rate has an X amount of SRP, service release premium, inside of it, that's being valued because somebody who's going to be the end user, the end purchaser, whether it's a hedge fund, a pension fund, Deutsche Bank, USB, whatever the case may be, whoever's going to be owning that asset, they expect that asset to pay them a dividend over the next 5 to 9 years. So they pay accordingly. When that asset is not willing or not able to pay for 5 to 9 years because it's going to get paid off in 2 years, then the same person who's purchasing it says, all right, I'll buy it, but I want 2 years up front. I want you to pay me 2 years of interest up front, and then I'll buy it at X rate because I have to factor into my probability machine, into my algorithm, that this thing's going to be paid off quickly.
Yeah.
Okay, well, that means our consumers, in order to get that FHA interest rate at 5.5% or 6% or 6.5%, whatever rates are, they have to pay 2 points.
Yep.
That 2 points is the end user, the end investor, purposely not giving us par pricing because they are scared to do so. They are scared that they will lose money, and they're not in the money losing business.
Yeah.
So we will see that subside again over the next, let's say, November 15th through about Valentine's Day.
Okay.
We'll start to see that settle down. I believe we're going to start seeing some favorable inflation data in November, and then that's going to continue into December. I think we're going to get a grip that unemployment is higher than we thought it would be, that possibly the way that unemployment has been reported hasn't been the most accurate. I think it's just using outdated formulas for reporting employment data and unemployment data. And I think the minute that starts happening, the mortgage industry and mortgage rates were the first to react to inflation. They're going to be the first to react to news that inflation is subsiding.
Gotcha.
So I think things do get better, but I do believe the next 90 days are going to be rocky as hell. We're going to continue to see pricing pressures, although that will subside as the year wanes. We're going to continue to not see par pricing, although that'll subside as the year wanes. We are going to see the most amount of closures, forced mergers, etc. in the next 90 days. I think that is where the largest opportunity for some will present itself. I think that's an opportunity for companies who are in growth mode to recruit some of the best talent. I talked to a CEO last week, John. He literally said to me, he said, besides the things that are in the pit of my stomach that worry me, things like inflation, things like the Fed overreacting, things like housing potentially coming down by 10 or 15%. He's like, I can't control any of that, but that's like the pit of my stomach. Like, oh, that worries me. And probably worries him because he can't control it. And he's a CEO. So CEOs tend to be a little bit controlling. His other concern for his company He said, not once have I, my regional managers, my divisional vice presidents, or my branch managers had this type of opportunity presented to us. I'm afraid we won't be able to say no enough. No, unfortunately, we won't hire you, loan officer. No, unfortunately, branch manager, you don't fit what we do well. Because typically in this industry, if somebody wants to come work for you and they're not a serial killer and they, for the most part, follow your way of doing business, you hire them.
Yeah.
He thinks those opportunities are going to be so great. And there's only so many resources any company has to dedicate to onboarding new associates that he's like, are we equipped to be so diligent in our screening process that we're willing to say no to this particular opportunity because it grades 7 out of 10, knowing there's a 9 out of 10 or a 10 out of 10 opportunity right behind it. That's what I'm geared up for. And if I'm a loan originator and I'm a rookie loan originator, you know I'm geared up for? Every time that other loan officer retires or that other loan officer decides mortgage isn't for them, perfect. That person had 3 realtors who referred them business. This person had 5 realtors who referred them business. I need to be out there networking like crazy. When I look inside of my circle, my bubble that I live in, the loan officers who are doing the best right now are those that have been in the business the least amount of time. They don't know any better. Literally, the Jimmy Nadeau's, the Mike Williamses, their business is up.
Yeah, that's all I know. What you mean is bad?
Yeah, they're like, what are you talking about? Like, all they know is their job is to get out there and network like crazy, go on sales calls, figure out a way to help realtors sell more homes and look good while doing so. And they're out there crushing it. The people who I find struggling, the people who got fat and happy over the past 2 or 3 years, right? They're used to the phone just ringing. Now all of a sudden the phone's not ringing, and
it's somebody else's fault, not mine.
Yeah, it's also a mindset shift where they just have to like get that urge again to get out there and get after it. So I hope this episode was very informative. I hope it wasn't too over the top geeky. I hope it didn't freak too many people out, but at the same time, I want you to be in the know, right? You have to be in the know. We don't need to be blind to this. We need to have our eyes open, our ears open, and understand what is transpiring so that we can make our career moves and our adjustments as necessary.
Well said.
Awesome. Hey, he is John Coleman. I'm Dustin Owen. That's all the time we have for you today. Please keep on tuning in. Visit our website, theloanofficerpodcast.com or TLOP online.com. Check us out on social. Follow us on LinkedIn. And tell your friends and family to do the same.
Yeah.
We'll catch you in the next episode. Peace.